Welcome all to Yamhill County Truth Seeker Conversations in the Spirit of Truth. Today we welcome back Oregon Representative Lucetta Elmer. Welcome to the show and thank you for joining me again.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Right off the gates, are you feeling hopeful or frustrated with the Oregon legislative system at this point? And if you are feeling hopeful, what makes you hopeful? If frustrated, what makes you frustrated?
Both, all of it.
Mm.
Lots of feelings happening. By nature, I'm an optimistic person and I'm a hard worker. So I entered this session feeling hopeful. And there's been a lot of talk about collaboration, reaching across the aisle, working together. And I have seen some of that. Specifically, I co-sponsored the Buy America bill with Speaker Dan Rayfield. Um, and that one was introduced into committee this last Monday. That's a great bill that will help Cascade Steel right here in McMinnville. Um, and I'm always for keeping jobs in Oregon, America, and promoting that industry right here. So that's a great example of that. However, this week we definitely saw some things heat up with the big homeless, houseless package that was passed out of the floor or off the floor over to the Senate, um, and that to me gave a look of maybe a deeper look into this legislature, which means yes, there is some conversation that can be had, but ultimately the decisions are made by the majority party. And there was a lot in those two bills that got sent out. Some of it was good, some of it was not good, and you know we can't stop that. So we can try to have conversation, but our conversation, our voices aren't ultimately going to be moving the needle on those types of things.
Well, that's kind of what I expected to hear, not having been there myself, just being in the minority party.
Mhm.
Although on a side note, I often wonder if we really are the minority party, but that's an election integrity question, and I'll get to that a little later. But yeah, just what can you do except be a voice? And you're
Mhm.
doing that now,
Correct.
and speaking out when you can.
Yep.
So a little more nuts and bolts. What is your estimate of the percent of time? This is just me not knowing how it looks when you're actually in there doing your thing for on our behalf, which again, I really appreciate what you're doing. Percent of time on four things. The entire house meets, you speak. I've seen you speaking as well as I assume voting. So there's that. And then desk work and research and visiting constituents and committee meetings. So kind of chop that up. Where's your time divided amongst those four?
Um, my time is it is a race. It is really crazy. I'm a pretty high energy person. We have multiple businesses in my private life and been involved in all, and it's a lot. It's fast paced. This capital life, it's a step. We've turned up the heat on it. So a typical day for me, I'm getting to the Capitol at 7:30, maybe 8, and Mondays and Wednesdays I'm getting there at least by 7:30 because I have an 8 a.m. Business and Labor Committee. So I usually try to get there a little early so I can meet with my other four committee members that are Republican. And then we go over the public testimony we're going to be hearing about and the work session and the bills we'll be voting on that day. And then our committees are an hour and a half. Every day that I'm in Salem, which is Monday through Thursday, I have two committees. So Monday's business and labor, and then in the afternoon I have early childhood and human services. Tuesday and Thursday I have economic development and small business, followed by higher education.
Mm.
So then we've moved into floor and caucus Monday through Thursday as well. So we'll have an hour of caucus time where the Republicans meet. We talk about what we're going to be seeing on the floor that day, and any other business for the good of the order. And then we go into to our floor time which is typically the time allotted is 11 to 12. We've been going over pretty much every day and still not finishing the business, and then we're having to push bills to the next day. Um, and so we are voting. We're voting on bills. We're moving them out. You can speak to the bill, and I have been speaking to those that maybe come out of my committee. I'm the vice chair of the Business and Labor, so sometimes I want to give background as to why meaning my party, stands where it stands. Remonstrances are at the end of our floor sessions, where basically you can just sort of give your opinion. I've been taking advantage of that because I do feel like our voice should be heard, and I want to change the narrative, or at least get the narrative out there that there is another side, and there's things that as a legislative body I don't want us to forget. I want us to remember to consider all sides. Um, when I'm not in committee or in caucus or on the floor, my day is scheduled by 15-minute meetings with stakeholders, lobby, constituents, maybe other legislators. Um, I meet with the chair of my committee once a week. Um, I have time for my other committees that we do a pre-session. Um, there isn't a ton of time during my day for the research, so that gets
Mm.
put on at night or on the weekends. I do have a strong team, and I'm thankful, so thankful for them. I have my chief who handles my emails and calendar, and I have a couple legislative assistants who help me with the research. Fridays I spend here in District 24, and I meet with constituents. I'll go do tours of different programs or businesses or nonprofits. I was at the county courthouse a couple weeks ago, meeting with the judges. I met with the superintendent from Willamina last week. I try to at least once a month meet with our former representative Ron Noble. I have a lot of questions, and I appreciate his thoughts on how to understand this new world. But yeah, it is a full week. It flies by, and it's not for the faint of heart.
Mm. Mm. Wow, that's amazing. I did not picture it being so fast paced.
Yeah.
You're probably having to balance coffee and nutrition and exercise somehow, all all in there.
We often forget, not that we forget to eat, we get hungry. There's just no time.
Wow. Well, I'm
So,
sorry.
no, that's okay.
Um,
It is, I do enjoy it. It is
okay.
peaceful, even though it's a crazy schedule.
Mm. So I saw on your Facebook elected official page that you were visited by, or at least took pictures with, Adam Garvin from
Mhm.
McMinnville City Council, Chris Chenoweth City Council, Remy Drabkin, the mayor, as well as your predecessor, Ron Noble. You did mention you get visits by constituents. About how often do constituents stop by, or do
Uh,
they?
yeah, at the Capitol, we have had some for sure. And then if people want to meet me in district, then I end up having at least a couple a week that I meet here in usually McMinnville. But next week I'm driving out to Sheridan, and I'm going to be touring the CTE school out there. Um, so I'm always happy to go and see parts of the district, and I'm very happy to have people to the Capitol.
Okay, so you'd rather maybe go to them than, and obviously, and actually that kind of relates to what I was going to ask. I've seen that you visited some schools.
Mhm.
You were in the newspaper highlighted as talking to 400 juniors on College and Career Day. That must have been a little bit crazy. And then the FFA in Yamhill Carlton, and you mentioned the CTE class. Do you get a sense when you're talking to the students that they are interested in what's happening in Oregon's government?
I was really impressed with those juniors at the McMinnville High School. I was the final speaker of the day, and I think they'd been in that gymnasium most of the day. So I was at a little disadvantage there, and I thought, they don't need to hear more words. So I just said, let's just do a mock committee, and brought them up, and they didn't have any heads up at all. And they asked great questions. They kind of understood the process and played along. And I really was impressed with how quick they were on their feet. And I gave them a bill. It was the gas, pump your own gas
Mm-hmm.
or fuel. And so it was something that I thought maybe as a junior and starting to drive, it could resonate with them.
Mm-hmm.
But they were great.
That's cool. Yeah. I've been substituting in McMinnville School District, and I'm pretty impressed with the kids. Just
Yeah,
in general, I'm it gives you hope for the future for sure.
absolutely.
Well, you're on the committees for business and labor, early childhood and human services, and higher education. Does that mean that you have input on bills that are in those three contexts only, or can you testify on other committees? Or do you have time? Sounds like you may not even have time to go anywhere else.
Yeah, and so I did get a fourth committee added, which is that I didn't have those first 2 weeks, and that fourth committee is economic development and small
Hmm.
business. But yes, I can go and testify in other committees, and I have a bill tracking system that my team helps me with. So we're tracking bills that maybe are really relevant to District 24, and then also bills that are maybe relevant to me personally that I have a personal connection or story with. So I will go testify or sign on to bills that obviously aren't in all of them aren't in my committee, and then help do some research and prep work to get those bills ready, or go have conversations with other legislators that may have questions about the bill.
So I know there can be lots of testimony, but they don't. Not all these bills make it out of committee for a vote of the House or the Senate. Is that and then or to the governor? Is that how it works?
Correct. So today
Okay.
is the final day. All bills that are going to stay alive have to be assigned to a committee for their first phase, which is the public testimony part. So at the end of today, if a bill hasn't been assigned, it's most likely dead.
Mm. So where are we now in terms of bills that might go to a vote? Active bills. Are there some that rise up in your mind as being important?
Um, yes, for sure. But the way it works is that the majority party gets to choose.
Okay.
They truly do. So
Sure.
it's very important that you work on those relationships.
Hmm.
As vice chair in business and labor, uh, anyone can ask, that their bill gets heard. But I really will lobby for my fellow legislators and say, so and so really wants this bill heard. What do you think? And I try, but at
Hmm.
the end of the day, they have their agenda, and um, I would say in that specific committee, 95% are bills that they've brought forward.
Okay.
Our bills aren't necessarily heard there. And other committees that might look a little different, but um, yeah, yeah,
Okay.
there's not a ton that I'm super excited because I think they're going to be amazing. I sometimes dream about if we had a little stronger voice and what kind of legislation we could put forth. I do think the Buy America bill is a good one, and I expect to see that on the House floor. It's the Speaker's bill, so
Well, it sounds good. Well,
yeah.
when is this session wrapping up exactly? And then when is the next session?
So our sine die per the Constitution, I believe, is June 25th. It's
Oh,
somewhere at the end of June. So I mean, we could, in theory, wrap up before. I don't see that happening. We're close to 4,000 bills that were put forth. Um,
whew.
so at the end of June, we will be done with this session of legislation. But and then the next session is short session, which will start in 2024. Now there may be a special session that the governor calls at some point during the second half of this year. We may have a few days that we gather as a body, but there's nothing on the calendar yet.
So today is, you called it sine die, or
Hmm. Correct.
and that means that everything that doesn't get there's obviously going to be some work between now and
Yes.
June, but I guess it's all, is it more testimony on the bills that are making it out, and just because I was looking at
Correct.
Oregon citizenslobby.org. They cover a lot of bills on there, and there's dates of things happening. Is public still involved, able to get input on all these things?
Yeah, so we're definitely starting to see the bills switch from one side, from the House side to the
Okay.
Senate and vice versa. So now, the whole process starts over again.
Hmm.
As the bill makes its way over from the Senate to the House committee, then we'll have public testimony on it, and then we'll do our work session and then send it to the House floor or not if it doesn't make it out of committee. So it is kind of like the same thing. It's just half of the Senate has already heard these bills, or the House has heard bills, and we're just flip flopping them. So,
Okay.
just the second phase of it.
Good to know. You spoke
Yeah.
before the House on Oregon's mental and behavioral health policies, as well as the fentanyl crisis. Is there something good happening in progress in either of those areas that you know of?
I think the good is the awareness that's
Okay.
being raised. Obviously, Oregonians are aware because it's hitting a lot of people personally, and it's hitting super close to home, whether it is in their home or in their community, certainly in their state. So I think that, rising up that conversation and the awareness is good. There are some bills that I signed on to, making sure that that stays as a top priority and that resources can be available to assist in this. As far as the fentanyl crisis, more education with our youth. It's heartbreaking to see it affecting our the future of our best and
Mm.
brightest and our children. Um, the homeless or the mental health and the behavioral issues, those that lines up with the governor's goals as well. I think it's a bipartisan um, conversation that we're having. I think that we all agree that, we want to help with this. We don't want to see it affecting so many people. We want to get people the help they need so that they're not on our streets and out in the elements, all of those things. Um, how we go about it, obviously, there's many thoughts on that. So we're trying to find those things that we agree on and can
Mm.
get behind together. But there is a lot of our tax dollars going towards this issue, trying to find a solution.
Hopefully that's good and it will make progress. Sometimes I think just education alone isn't really enough. And it kind of related to that, some people say that the United States unsecure southern border makes all states a border state for issues of crime, human trafficking, and of course the drug problem. Would you say that the fentanyl crisis is a U.S. border issue?
Oh, absolutely. I think that plays into it. And I
Okay.
agree with your statement. Yes, it puts all of us at risk. And I mean, it's ludicrous to me that we just continue in this state. I don't mean the state of Oregon, I mean the state of the open border.
Hmm. Well, I am excited by something I saw on your Facebook that you're asking for support of Imagination Library HB
Yes.
2872. What's that about?
I love it. So, way back when, before business, I was an elementary ed major and worked with early childhood education, worked at Linfield and there was the director for their preschool program. And reading to children is, it's amazing, it's wonderful, it's rewarding, it's needed, it's great. So when I heard about the Dolly Parton Imagination Library, I just thought, oh man, what a good job, Dolly.
Mm-hmm.
Essentially, it's throughout all of the states, and she kind of gives the same challenge that if a state raises X amount of money, she matches it. And if we meet the goal, she'll actually come to the state and visit. But what we're trying to do is get one book a month into the hands of every child
Wow.
from birth to 5 years old. So yeah, I think it's great. I think it's a great bill. Personally, I think it takes both. I don't think it's necessarily the state's responsibility to put all of that money there, but if I know that here in Yamhill County we have Yes, the Yamhill Enrichment Society,
Mm.
and so I personally have donated into that because they have a that goes directly to the Imagination Library. So that's a great way to personally reach out and help support this. But I do think it's a fantastic program.
Awesome. It sounds really cool. I have a granddaughter who is totally addicted to books, so it makes me think of her.
Yeah.
I'm going to just throw one more question at you. Is voter integrity on your radar, such as either removing or extending motor voter? Because I saw there's a bill both directions.
It hasn't been on my radar specifically in the last 2 months because there's so many other things on my everyday daily to-do list, and I haven't seen that bill in any of my committees. However, from a broader sense, I know if it passes out of committee, it will be coming to the floor, so I will be looking at it, we will be talking about it. I dream of a world where we truly can trust in the integrity of our voter system.
Hmm. Me too. To me, it tends to rise to the top of hot topics for me because
Yes,
it affects so many other things. Do we really know that
exactly.
our each person is getting one vote?
Yep,
I
yep,
could. We'll spend another time on that with somebody and dig into it because it needs to um, stay in front of us and not just be
yes,
ignored.
yeah,
And related to that, I'm going to encourage viewers again to go to the OregonCitizenslobby.org and follow critical bills. There's a lot of really important things on there, and maybe even show up. If a person
yeah.
does testify, do they have an electronic version now, or do you have to drive and talk?
Yeah, you can do either. You can
Okay.
come testify in person, you can do it remotely. You can also come and you can sit in on any committee, whether you're testifying or not. If you just are curious about a
Mm,
bill and want to hear the discussion, or you can log in through the legislative website and you
wow.
can watch bills every day. You can watch us on the floor. Um, there's a lot that you can just be a part of and click into any of those committees on the House or the Senate side.
There's another bill that I saw as I was reading through Senate Bill 854, Climate Change Instruction for K-12. I just want to rant a little bit. It's hard enough to get people grounded in reading, writing, math, social studies, but to add climate change instruction,
Mm-hmm.
I just encourage people to look that up and see on that website and see what that's about. It just seems to me like a kind of a waste of time, but
Yep, I hear you on that, Todd. And I really wish that we could work on those things that we know to be facts in the school
mm,
system and get our
mm,
kids prepared. We are seeing part of being on the higher education committee. We do have a lot of instructional testimony and public testimony. We've heard from the HEC, we've heard from all of the public institutions, and they're all unanimous in saying some of the same things. Students aren't ready. They're coming out of high school not prepared. They're not able to even meet the minimum requirements specifically in math, so they're wanting these funds to offer support services maybe in the summer before their freshman year to get them ready, and then support services for once they're in school. And I just think that it's an issue that's not a standalone after you're out of high school. We need to dial it back and look at then let's help them get ready during their K through 12.
for sure.
So absolutely.
State Representative Lucetta Elmer, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for what you're doing and giving me the privilege of having a bit of your time today.
Thanks for
Um,
having me.
yeah, you bet. I pray blessings on you and your cohort down there that are working so hard. How can people get a hold of you?
On my website, you can definitely get a hold of me, which I guess I should look that up. Um, if you just put in the Oregon Legislature, it will take you, and you could to the main page. You see all of the representatives and all of your
Mm,
senators. So we're there. You can reach out to my office anytime. My website, or I mean, my email and my phone number is on the website. I always welcome visitors, or I will do my best on Fridays if you can't make it to Salem to come find you if you would like to sit down and have a conversation.
awesome.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of these United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. And to my country I make my pledge to always love, protect, and defend her. And we, the people across this land, one nation